What you're about to learn right now can be used for good or for evil, and the truth is, you're probably being manipulated daily without even realizing it. Manipulation is something so common and so subtle that it's practically impossible to notice, and by the time you finally figure it out, it's already too late. The worst part is that you don't know who's manipulating you, because a good manipulator doesn't look like one. That's exactly why you need to learn right now how manipulation works and what to do to avoid being manipulated. And to understand that, we're going to analyze the behavior of Light Yagami from the anime Death Note, which is basically a story entirely built around manipulation, mystery, and mind games. It's the perfect example for this video. But of course, for me to teach you how not to be manipulated, I'll inevitably have to teach you how to manipulate as well. So, like I said at the beginning, it's up to you whether you use this knowledge for good or for evil. The responsibility is entirely yours. My personal advice is that you simply learn this so you'll never be manipulated again and not to deceive people. Hi, my name is Rodrigo Fortes, and you're watching Academia do Caribe. Now, let's describe a bit about Light Yagami, who is the typical profile of a manipulator. This description applies to him, but also to any skilled manipulator. Light Yagami is a promising, popular, athletic, intelligent young man, an enviable standard. One day, he finds a notebook at school that says Death Note, and that notebook kills anyone whose name is written in it with various causes of death. Light decided to use it to eliminate all the criminals in the world, and the more he kept killing and killing, the more a detective named L started suspecting these deaths. So, to continue with his plan without being caught, Light had to use manipulation techniques to get the people around him to do what he wanted, to extract the maximum from them for his own benefit. This is practically the perfect description of a typical manipulator. Whether you agree or disagree with Light's philosophy of cleansing evil from the world in the name of justice, you have to admit that he is a born manipulator with highly narcissistic tendencies and a compulsive liar. These traits are typical of manipulators, especially narcissistic ones. What are narcissists? People who overvalue their own image. The first manipulation technique Light uses, and that most experienced manipulators also use, is exploiting the emotional weaknesses of their victims. Every person has emotional weaknesses. What are emotional weaknesses? That point, that wound, that when touched, makes you vulnerable. That's exactly what Light did to get the real name of an FBI agent. He killed the woman's husband because he had revealed his name, and she was devastated, very shaken, and decided she would seek justice for her husband. Because of that, she became extremely cautious and began giving false names when asked. Still, Light managed to manipulate her into giving her real name, even though she was being extremely careful. How did he do it? He struck her emotional wound. The emotional wound of that agent was her husband's death. That specific point made her vulnerable because it was her core objective. She wanted justice for her husband. When Light pretended to also want justice and said, "I'm here to help you. I'm part of the task force. Let's bring justice for him together." She let her guard down. Even though she was an agent, she couldn't resist because Light knew her weak spot. That emotional vulnerability made her easy to manipulate. All people have emotional weak points. I have them, you have them, and these points are easily exploitable by manipulators. Salespeople, for example, notice that you have a deep insecurity or emotional wound and offer you a magical solution. Another clear example of this is the famous friend zone. Imagine a guy completely in love with a girl. Let's say this girl is very manipulative and realizes that he's emotionally invested in her, but she doesn't want anything serious. So what does she do? She targets his emotional weak point, the fact that he's deeply in love with her. She subtly implies she might like him too. She drops subtle hints, gives vague compliments, says things like, "Maybe we'd be good together someday," just enough to keep him hooked. And he keeps following her, doing favors, practically becoming her emotional servant. She knows this and takes advantage of it because she knows he's crazy about her. That emotional vulnerability makes him easily manipulated by her. So, don't reveal your emotional weak spots freely to anyone. Of course, there are people you trust and with whom you can share your insecurities and frustrations, but be very careful that this information doesn't fall into the wrong hands. The only person Light couldn't manipulate was L himself. L didn't tell anyone anything. No one even knew his real name, no one knew anything about him. He kept everything to himself and just focused on doing his job. The second manipulation technique used by many manipulators, especially narcissists, is building a perfect image. In the book, The 48 Laws of Power, there's a law that says, be the perfect courtier. Back in the royal courts, it was manipulation after manipulation. You couldn't get angry at your opponent, you couldn't insult them or threaten them directly. It was all about subtle power games and appearances. You had to maintain a perfect image, a just, honest, intelligent, kind person. All of that added value to your reputation, because that way, even if you were caught or suspected of manipulation, people would think, no way, this person would never do that. Light cultivated this perfect image. So when L said he suspected Light, people would say, what? That smart, well-mannered, kind student? No way, it can't be Light. He's amazing. How could he possibly be the one killing people like that? You see this multiple times. Whenever L tells the other detectives that he suspects Light, even by just 1%, their reaction is always the same. Not Light. He's such a good kid. That's classic manipulator behavior. A good manipulator doesn't look like one. Think about it. If someone looked like a manipulator, no one would trust them. So a good manipulator builds a strong, flawless image so that even if they slip, people continue trusting them and overlooking any signs. The third manipulation technique, and this one's more psychological but can also be used for good, is called controlling the options. Controlling the options means you're the one dealing the cards. You decide what options the person believes they have, even if in reality they have many more. For example, this is a very common sales tactic. Someone approaches you, shows you a magical solution and says, look, you either take a chance on my program and change your life, or you stay stuck in mediocrity forever. See what they did? They only gave you two options: buy the product and change your life, or stay broke and miserable. But that's not true. There are tons of options. You could say, no, I'm not buying from this guy. I'll change my life my own way. Study alone, invest in another course, read books, try something else. But the manipulator wants you to act right now and wants to trigger an emotional reaction. So they simplify everything into two choices, one that sounds smart and one that makes you feel like a loser. And in the moment, we don't even realize it because it feels real, especially when they're also triggering your emotional wounds. The less time we have to decide, the more impulsive and less rational we become. But don't get me wrong, this manipulation technique can also be used for good. Let's say your friend is about to make a terrible decision. He's about to blow his whole career on a scam or a bad investment, but he's blinded by desire and ambition. You could say, man, don't do this. That's a scam. If you go through with it, you're going to lose everything. But if you don't do it, you'll still have chances to succeed the right way, like this other opportunity over here. Just don't go through with this one, because it'll destroy you. If you walk away, you'll be fine. When people offer you only two choices, remember what I told you. There are never just two options. There are infinite ones. The trick is in who is giving you those choices and how they frame them. Be very careful because this is a manipulation technique that could cost you a lot of money if you're dealing with a scammy salesperson or manipulative figure. These manipulation techniques I've talked about here are basic, really beginner level. There are far more advanced techniques that are practically invisible to the untrained eye unless you've studied them. So, if you want more videos like this, leave a comment below so I know you're enjoying this kind of content. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you want more like it, subscribe to the channel. That's it. See you in the next one.